from Maria Namath, who is the author of this super great book called The Energy of Money that she wrote in the 90s, and is the founder of the Academy of Coaching Excellence in the States. And Glenn and I had the good fortune to have her on our podcast a few years back. And then because of that conversation, I actually got invited to be the very first guest that she had on her podcast, which felt like such an honor. And she was also kind enough to write an endorsement for my book when I published my book. So she has a special place in my heart. And so this email, in there she writes, "There comes a time for all of us when we look back on our lives and see the wonderful things we've done and the milestones we've completed. And yet, we may notice our energy beginning to flag, as if we're dragging an anchor behind us." Is this something anyone in the room can relate to? I know I can. Okay, I'm seeing some hands going up. All right, even in the band. Okay, wow, almost everyone in the room. Could we have the next slide, please? Great, thank you. And so, yeah, this really hit home for me because I experienced the call to ministry many, many, many years ago. And for most of that time, you know, it's only been 2.5 years, well, almost 3 since I graduated. But for most of that time, I was in class, I was studying. And so there was this incredible unrelenting pace of just like, keep up, keep up, keep up. And all along, it was like, you know, the call to ministry is about being a minister, becoming a minister. Well, the journey is really the gift, right? I mean, yeah, there's the goal and there's the becoming something and getting there in the end, but really there is no end because the journey continues throughout life. But it just can feel from time to time, and I felt this in ministry, I felt it with my bakery, I have felt it in other times of my life, even parenthood, where, you know, just like working, blossoming, expanding, and still there's this like, you know, weight kind of thing, you know, that I'm dragging along. So what she says is, when something is incomplete, it does not remain in the past. It continues to live wherever it has not yet been brought to completion, and it draws on your energy in ways that are often subtle but persistent. I'm going to offer that sometimes they're not so subtle, right? Like you are aware, you feel bogged down and stuck and like you're trudging through wet, drying cement kind of thing, but you keep doing it, right? Like you're aware, like this isn't the optimal way to live, but this is what I know, so I'm going to keep trudging. And so what she's talking about here is that there is a longing or a yearning within us that is unfulfilled, that is incomplete. And until we answer the call, until we show up and embrace our purpose, until we open up and actually do what it is that we are here to do, that from time to time, no matter how great things have been going, there's going to be this feeling of like, oh, I'm still dragging something along. And it's because there's the thing within us that isn't completed. Now, she's also talking about stuff that we haven't addressed. Okay, so stuff that, you know, happened at some point in life, there was some experience, there was some interaction with someone, there was some trauma that we experienced, and it wasn't completely integrated and processed and metabolized, all those jargony words, but there's still something that we're hanging on to, and whether knowingly or unknowingly, if we haven't worked through it, it's going to impact our life right now, in this moment. And so for me, when I was thinking about this, you know, fulfilling longing and yearning sort of thing, and then also, you know, the stuff that we haven't tended to for whatever reason, then I sort of got stuck on the longing and yearning part. Because for me, there were 3 things that come to mind when thinking about longing and yearning. That there is this desire for fuller expression. That there is this desire for more fulfillment. That there is perhaps this desire to be able to just show up as authentically and genuinely as possible, unapologetically so, no matter what other people say, no matter what they think, no matter what the opinions offer, no matter what the circumstances around us are, that we just show up as the love that we are. That's the certainty that we're talking about in our affirmation this month. And so for me, the expression, I was thinking, okay, what have I been sitting on? What have I been like, you know, letting go of or ignoring or not tending to that is just like constantly in my atmosphere and field and dragging me down like that proverbial anchor. And for me, it's playing the piano again. Because I grew up playing the piano. I went through the entire Western Board syllabus. I did exams every year. I did festivals every year. And not only did I really, really enjoy it, but I was actually really good at it. And so at some point in life, in adult life, my creativity and artistry shifted to food. And once it shifted to food, all of my energy, all of my creativity, all of my artistry, and everything went into that. Into being a pastry chef, into being an entrepreneur, into being a business owner. And then it kind of shifted from that into ministry because I experienced the call to ministry. And now I knew that music was going to be a huge part of my ministry, and I figured that it was because I would go back to playing piano, and I would be sitting there, and I would be singing and getting everyone whipped up in a lather and having a great time and everything. But that's not what happened. And it's because the longer I didn't play, the more frustrating it got for me because I couldn't play. And so now I'm at the stage where I'm singing more and I can do enough on the piano to maybe do some arranging and maybe, say, okay, Kelby, this, and then, I give it to Kelby, and then he works his magic and, out comes a song, arrangement, whatever sort of thing. But this is the thing, and so I decided a few weeks ago, I am returning to taking piano lessons with someone next month. And I'm so excited because it's someone that I really respect and admire, and I'm just so excited that I'm going to be able to take piano lessons with him. Now, the other part of it is fulfillment. And no matter what I have been doing in my life, it feels like because I focus all of my time and attention and energy on this, there's all of this that I'm not able to tend to. And so as I move through ministry, which for me has never been about just this, there are so many aspects to ministry for me, and it looks different for everyone. But there's stuff that I haven't been able to do, especially since the collision in June, because this is what I have the bandwidth for. This is what my focus is right now. And yet there is this longing on my heart to do some of this other stuff that I've had to put aside for a while so that I can do this. But this isn't going to stay super patient for much longer, because this is part of my purpose. This is part of what I'm supposed to be doing here. And so I need to be able to allow it to come through. And then there's authenticity. And oh my gosh, I don't know about you guys, but I grew up in a home and at a time when children were meant to be seen and not heard, when my opinion didn't matter, when the adults were the ones who knew everything, they were the teachers, they were the ones that you turned to, they were the ones you automatically respected no matter what. And my voice didn't matter. What I thought didn't matter. My opinion didn't matter. I had to do what I was told. I had to think what they told me to think. And that was so hard to do, but became so ingrained and familiar that to this day, even as I'm standing on this stage, there is this voice and this story, this loop running in the background going, nobody wants to hear what you have to say. And so I need to make a conscious choice to ignore that voice, and not even ignore it. Go like, hey, I hear you, and you're wrong. And then just do this anyway, right? And so Carl Jung is attributed to saying, what we resist persists, right? And so going back to the incompletion part and then the stuff about there's stuff that needs to be tended to, well, if there is stuff that we haven't tended to for a long, long time, and we get in this loop of ignoring it, then we're going to distract ourselves in order to not tend to this. And our unconscious is so good at trying to distract us. And so when there is something that is too boring, our unconscious is going to make us distracted by something that is more exciting and more enthused and whatever, just so that we can feel something. If there is something that is too painful, then we're going to distract ourselves with medication, with numbing, something to take our attention, whether it's food, whether it's work, whether it's television, whatever, right? And then there are times when things are too uncomfortable, and so we'll choose unconsciously to be distracted. And the thing is that it's uncomfortable because it's new, because it's different and it's unfamiliar, so to our psyche it's a threat. So our unconscious is going to go, wait a minute, we're going to create circumstances, we're going to create distractions and aversions so you can just stay exactly as you are because that's safe. But when you stay safe that way, what happens? You stay small. You can't grow because growing is a threat. And so how would you ever evolve? How would you ever allow that incredible, amazing, awesome, divine, energetic flow that is the very essence of your being, that is this incredible creative power that is responsible for everyone and everything that ever was and will be? How could that possibly be unleashed and fulfilled through you if you're doing this and holding on and just like staying small? And so we got to be willing to grow. We got to be willing to get uncomfortable. We got to be willing to feel the pain, right? So this brings me back to that 10-day dopamine rebalance challenge that I've talked about a couple of times. And the reason that I wanted to bring it back today is because the tech hasn't been working for the last 2.5 weeks. And so the people online haven't had a chance to see this. And the reason that I asked the gentleman, the Elevate Trio, to stand on here is because in a moment, I'm going to ask them to play some music. So there was this 10-day dopamine rebalance challenge that I did through Insight Timer. And every day there was a different technique that we were taught for about 10 minutes to rebalance dopamine. And on the very last day, it was music. And the guy that did this, Murray Hittery, I think is his name, he said that music is one of the most powerful dopamine activators. And the reason that it is so powerful is because it keeps us in the present moment. Because when we're being distracted, we're pulling ourselves out of the present moment. We're allowing ourselves to be pulled out of the present moment. We're in this back part of the brain, but when we come into the present moment, or when we do something that shifts us from this back part of the brain to this front part of the brain that is more advanced, that is newer, then we are in the present moment. Then we are anchored, we are grounded, we are focused, we are paying attention. And when we do that, then we can access that certainty and that knowing that always exists within us. So on your tables, there are some little forms there, and I know there were a few people who were here on Sunday who had a chance to do this, but I'm going to ask you, do it again and see if there's something new that comes up, because you're a brand new you right now compared to 3 days ago. So grab a form and a pencil, and as you open up to the what I love and appreciate thoughts and feelings that you're going to write down on your sheet, I'm going to invite the Elevate Trio for maybe like 2 or 3 minutes just to play something, just improvise something that is sort of peaceful, calm, and allow us to just really sort of open up our hearts and expand our minds and anchor ourselves in the love we truly are. And then for everyone here, I invite you to just jot down 1, 2, 3, if you have 4 things, just write them down. Whatever it is that is in your heart. Feeling after writing some things down that you appreciate about VTC, because not only is music something that releases and rebalances dopamine, but so is appreciation and gratitude. And so combining the two together is like a double whammy, allowing you and kind of forcing you to really be in the present moment. And when you're in that present moment is when you are anchored in the love and creativity that you are at your core. And so thank you, gentlemen. Let's give them a hand. And thank you to you for your presence. And so as we move through the rest of our time, sort of, in the coming hours, days, weeks ahead, I really invite us all to become more conscious of when it is that we are allowing ourselves to be distracted. Because it is a choice, even if it's an unconscious one. Nobody's making that decision for us. But when we are finding ourselves distracted, because that means we're getting pulled out of the present moment, and the thing that is vying for our attention, bless you, the distraction, that's not really what requires our attention. What requires our attention is the thing that we're allowing ourselves to be distracted from, right? So the allure of distraction can be strong, and most of the time, it's not the distraction that requires our attention, it's the feeling or experience we're having that does. But because it's too boring, too painful, or too uncomfortable, our unconscious looks for distractions to keep us safe. Why? Because it thinks we can't handle it. It doesn't even ask our permission. It just automatically decides that our conscious mind isn't equipped enough to handle all of this intense stuff, these intense feelings. And so it creates these diversions. So what ends up happening is the very thing that requires our attention is the very thing that we get pulled away from. But the thing is, just like with what Maria Namath offered, if we don't tend to it, if we don't complete it, whether it is something that we haven't finished because it's something that we experienced and it was too painful or traumatic or whatever to deal with, or whether it is the truth of who and what we are, whether it is expressing more fully, whether it is embracing our purpose, whether it is showing up unapologetically as our genuine selves, all of that requires conscious, intentional choice. And so my question to all of us is, what's one thing you are willing to do today? And I'm actually going to ask you to take out your phones, and I want you to text the answer to yourself right now. Come on, pull out your phones. What is one thing you are willing to do today to bring completion to a longing or yearning in your life so that you feel more expressed, fulfilled, and authentically you, no matter what? What is one thing you are willing to do today to bring completion to a longing or yearning in your life so that you feel more expressed, fulfilled, and authentically you, no matter what? And you can take that into conscious conversation with you. Thank you, and so it is.